After a successful day in the field with Fred and Scott at High Point University, we're now back at the office where we're going to take a look at the data. I'm especially interested to see the level of detail that was captured with this system. There's a lot of information out there to collect, from the actual utilities and structures to also just some of the beautification they've done on the grounds as far as the landscaping. So anyway, let's go ahead and dive into it. Well, Fred, definitely appreciate you taking the time to work through the data set with me.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and dive right in.
So we've pulled in our trajectory data here. Right now, it's not corrected or anything, but we do see our trigger events, which represent our pictures.
Looks like we have all of them, so that's good.
For this particular mission, I knew that we had a core station close by, so we decided to use the core station as our base for the post-processing of the trajectory. We have our base station here. I'm going to drag that in.
And you were just able to download this data directly from for the core station, right?
Correct, yes. So we see our core station here. When you download your data from a core station, there's several files that come with it. The two that are important are your Rhinex file that comes with it, and then the actual coordinates. All right, our next step is to go ahead and set our base station. Looks like we have 100% fixed solution.
Which is definitely what we're looking for, so that's good.
So we ran our GNSS inertial processor, and our positional accuracy looks great. So let's take a look at our corrected position.
Okay, so you can see the difference between the purple and the green, purple being uncorrected, green being corrected.
Correct. So we're going to export an SBEP file for our LiDAR when we post-process our LiDAR in Terrascan. And we'll also export our EO data from POSPAC. We're going to use mdInfinity desktop to georeference our raw LiDAR files.
Okay.
So I have my payload profile here, which has my bore sight angles saved. So let's process.
Okay. Since that's going to take a few minutes processing, what are we going to do while we're waiting for that?
Let's prepare our CAD file. This particular area here is the project limits that were provided by our client. So let's bring in the control points. The control points are crucial for helping tie our LiDAR strips to one another, and they're a great check for accuracy for our LiDAR. So you can see we got plenty of ground returns under the canopy there. So as you can see right here, we obviously know this is the roadway here. You can see the curb kind of break right there, picks back up over there. So the area in between, it's a little noisy on the asphalt, but we can take care of that in post-processing. So one of the first things we want to do once we have this LiDAR in, we already took a look around, so let's just make sure it's the right place in space. We can do a comparison of our LiDAR to our control points that I mentioned earlier.
When you start seeing differences between the point cloud and the controls you measured underneath the 10th without actually even massaging the data at all, I'd say we're at a great starting point just right out of the scanner. My understanding, by introducing the trajectory data, it allows us to tie the two elements together as far as the point cloud and the trajectory information, which then gives us the opportunity to compare, I guess, the individual strips and work through a strip adjustment if necessary, correct?
Well said. There are a couple steps we need to take to get the files ready for strip adjustment. The major step here is we calculate the distance of each point from its neighboring strip.
And all this is more or less trying to remove some of the data we know is not going to impact the strip adjustments and get everything just prepared for what data we want to see to aid in that strip adjustment.
Correct.
Okay.
So we're visualizing this data set here by the distance from each strip. So what you want to look for here, the green is great. I will go ahead and point out this right here is going to be a catch basin.
Okay, so in your processing, you've got essentially the interior of the storm structure that you have to deal with.
Correct, yes. So it picks up the bottom of the storm structure there.
So now you're pulling in the ground control that you guys set?
Yes, and we can take an initial look at what the software recommends, removing any systematic error in the LiDAR.
So it's comparing lines from each strip. So it generates a line on one strip and then generates a line on another strip, and those are what's getting compared, not the actual point clouds themselves at the moment.
Correct. Now that we've finalized our strip adjustment, why don't we move on to ground classification?
So with this particular project, the as-built is relative to the roadway and the surrounding features. So by getting everything down to the bare earth, or classified ground, we'll be able to work with those features that are on the ground and important for this project.
So this is our ground surface right here.
Okay, so now that we have the ground classified, what would be the next step that we could move into?
As a final check for our classified ground, we can compare the ground classified points to our control points that Scott set yesterday, as well as generate a shaded surface based on the ground classified LiDAR.
Yeah, no, it looks like you did a pretty good job of getting everything classified.
So we took a look at our shaded surface based on the ground LiDAR. Let's take a look at our control points compared to the ground LiDAR.
Okay.
So as you can see, it did a good job at classifying the ground. So we've gone through our above ground classification as well.
Okay, looks like we got everything very well separated. So to enhance the visualization, I guess we can go ahead and colorize the point cloud too, huh?
Correct. We use Global Mapper here. We used Agisoft to create our ortho here.
And man, that looks great. The detail that I'm seeing is pretty impressive. Yep, you can see the individual bricks. That's cool.
Now we're going to colorize the point cloud. So we're going to use the data viewer within mdInfinity desktop to take a look at our final colorized point cloud. All right, so this is our colorized point cloud.
I mean, just visually, it's impressive how obvious, everything it is that we're looking at out here. I mean, you see the brick sidewalk, you see the asphalt, the curb in between the two. I mean, the vegetation stands out, the signs and light poles stand out. I mean, it's pretty impressive just how easy it is to recognize the features in this point cloud.
Correct. We even take it one step further for our project deliverables and create two models, one of the ground surface and one of any above ground features coupled with the ground, and through stereo compilation the technicians are able to map the surface for a CAD deliverable.
Okay, so you have a point cloud deliverable, an ortho mosaic, as well as a CAD drawing.
Correct.
I appreciate you going through the workflow with me, Fred, to this point. I can definitely see that you guys are still doing quality work since I've been here, and I appreciate the time and effort and energy that you put into sharing this information with us.
Robert, always a pleasure.